Recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
Please love me.
See, I'm a Zoom stan, so I'm just gonna get my baby Zoom.
Yeah,
I'm a Zoom stan.
Yeah,
She comes through for us, man.
reliable.
Good old reliable. She ain't done me wrong in 50 episodes, baby girl.
Hey Zoom, I know you got my letters.
I know you got my $14.99 I give you every month, you sexy bitch.
No, I mean it's about the same price. It's about the same price. Okay.
Man, that sounds so much better, guys.
Finally. Damn.
Ooh,
yeah, I was like, shit. So he would have to sit with that. I mean, he's a trooper. He would have done it, but
yeah,
it would have been
and the
bad.
thing is, off Mike Botter's like, God, C is so fucking stupid. I guarantee this is his fault.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need a microphone to know that. I mean,
For the record, I did not. For the record, I did not. For the record, yo,
Warren, you fit in just right because you're doing more dividing than Botter is this episode. You're the guy I got to look out for.
Well,
for the record, I listened back to.
Botter's like, hey, wait, let me take that remark seriously.
See, I have made a career out of not backing Botter.
Ruining friendships.
Out of not backing Botter up, but I gotta say, I side with Botter here. Y'all boys sounded tense, and even listening to the episode, I was like, "Damn, C and Ed about to have a moment on here." All right.
Yeah, it's good.
So
It's good for the show.
I don't think Botter was trying to set y'all up. I really think y'all sounded mad, but that's just me.
It's all love, man.
Yo, look. See, I wanted to text you while I was editing because I had me rolling when Ed's like accidentally calls Javier Polito. He compares him to Kirby. Yo, there is a moment of silence, and all you hear is, "You think Javier Polito is like Jack Kirby?" Dude, the way it came about was fucking hilarious.
Dude, like the guy's inks and pencils are so thin, not a thick Sharpie ass line among them. I'm like, there's no way.
You're right.
It's like Jack Kirby purposely picked the fattest like graffiti artist marker he could from a kid off a subway and was like, "Thanks, kid," and inked only with Sharpies. No quills.
It needs at least be 50 point. At least
that's it.
50 point. In real life.
Yeah, he used a cigar to ink.
What I was gonna say is, just in case, should you allow C the ability to record from his end so he has a more fluid file? Just in case. So, C, do you know how to go into your Zoom settings and change it to record separate tracks?
Wait, can he do that while it's recording?
Yeah, he can.
While it's recording? Oh, that's cool.
So if you just go to your like little normal Zoom window where it says like create new meeting, schedule a meeting, all that shit.
Okay.
If you go to the top right to your settings. That little wheel.
Yeah. I see it.
I don't even see that.
So see, there should be two windows for your Zoom. One is our Zoom meeting right now, and then a second one that's like, it's got that return to meeting button, the schedule button. It's like a little weird dashboard.
It's got like the time on it.
Do you see that?
Nope.
Click on your Zoom icon and it should open it back up. Outside of where we're talking, it'll be like a different window.
He might not get that because he joined the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I'm saying this, because I know I have to deal with this all the time.
Please ask the host to give you permission to record, is what it says.
We just need to make sure you're recording separate tracks, though, so you got to go into settings.
But if he just said that it asked him to record, so I mean, if he's recording on his end, it should be his local track.
But we'll still be on his track unless he changes his settings, because you want the best chance of having a fluid file from him, because we all like to talk, and if we interrupt each other, you might have like some connection distortion at times. So if he's able to just record on his end also and just send you the file, that way you got a solid file, baby. It's just a precautionary thing.
I'm recording with Adobe Audition on my end.
Oh, then that's perfect. Yo, that's even better. So just send Botter that file, because I know one of the things about Riverside that was weird. I'm talking like Botter didn't know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Hello.
But I use this shit all the time.
Math is hard.
And having a solid connection file from you will make his editing so much easier. Because sometimes Zoom will take your word and it'll like kind of like run it through a chainsaw.
That's the best part.
Yeah. So we won't have to worry about cutting each other
I've been
off.
living my life trying to sound like a robot.
Yeah. So if you're recording on your end, we're golden, baby. Come on.
See, what is your shirt real quick?
It's Nosferatu.
Oh, that is a Cesar shirt if I've ever seen one. That's clean as shit.
Thank you.
Nosferatu.
All right, y'all boys ready to get started on this shit?
I was born ready, baby.
God damn. C is like, yo, thank God I ain't drive to see these motherfuckers.
No, man.
No, I've made that trek. It is a long one. All right. Well, let me go and take a swig of my drink. Let me cheers to you boys, to Cesar, to you, Warren. Thank you, all of you. And let's do a bomb ass fucking episode. Here we go.
That's all I know how to do.
I'm ready.
Yo. I'm sorry. That was the Cesar way of doing it. Let me just do it my way.
Yo, Short Box Nation. I'm your host for this evening, Bart Milligan.
That's good. That's a 10 out of 10 if I've ever heard one. But let me show you how it's really.
I'm gonna throw up.
Yo, Short Box Nation. Yo, welcome back. This is episode 344. The road to 350 is getting closer and closer every week. So if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the show. My name is Bart Milligan, and I'm joined by two guys I consider great friends and even bigger fucking headaches. First up, calling in from a remote location is my right-hand man, Cesar Cordero.
I don't know how to. Okay. All right.
They love you. See, they love you, dude.
I guess we're doing that now, huh? Should I just talk like Howard Stern the whole time? Is this like, Robin, bring in the boogerita. Oh my God. It's so sexy. It's so sexy.
What up, C?
Hey, man.
And joining
I'm actually I'm very excited to do this little episode here because I got a lot of things to say. You'll get to who we're talking to here in a sec, so I'll let you get to it.
I appreciate it. Look, listeners, joining us for this special episode is the return of the man behind the best Simpsons collection on Instagram at Bart of Darkness. And he's also the host of my favorite Simpsons podcast, not because I've been on that show a few times, but for other reasons as well. It's called Simpsons is Greater Than. Shortbox Nation, let's welcome back Mr. Warren Evans to the show.
Woo!
Wow.
Wow.
Welcome, Warren. What's up?
I am not worthy of that introduction. I was going to do something where I was like, oh, and sometimes they call me Captain Squid or one of the other like weird characters. What? But I decided not to do that, but I'm just going to go ahead and let people know on the mic that I was going to do it. So it's almost the same as if I did do it.
That's 100% right.
Yeah,
for sure. Your fictional landing was probably really better than the real landing.
I agree.
Sure. But Warren, look,
oh
just in case someone is missing out, Warren, do me a favor and do your spiel for Simpsons is Greater Than, so there's no excuse for any of our listeners not to be subscribing to your podcast right now.
Man, I will happily do that. If anyone out there, likes The Simpsons, but is concerned that you might not like The Simpsons enough, well, let me tell you about Simpsons is Greater Than, a podcast that I created over COVID to further dive down the rabbit hole that is my degrading mind when it comes to my love of The Simpsons. But all joking aside, if you're someone that just wants to hear from people on the show or people that really like the show from other creative ventures, I interview people like that every week. And sometimes I even bring on people like Botter when it's a slow week. To talk about all kinds of things, whether it be Treehouse of Horror episodes or, whatever you can think of. If you like The Simpsons, if it has to do with The Simpsons, Simpsons is Greater Than is about that. So come check it out, man. Hang out with us. I think you will all find something to enjoy.
Yeah, listeners, it's going to be a lot of witty puns and shit talking and low blows this episode.
Jesus Christ. What did I sign up for?
Exactly that.
I thought it was gonna be friend time. Vatter's like, nah, we're gonna fuck each other. It's like, oh my God, what is this, Human Centipede?
Look, we asked Warren to join us today because we'll be talking about a very special comic book superhero in this episode. He's the title character of Bart Simpson's favorite comic book and a love letter to the golden and atomic age of superheroes. He even has his own classic call to action catchphrase that goes a little something like this.
Up and at 'em.
And if that's not enough of a clue, I'll just come out and say it, damn it. We're talking about the Simpsons' own atomic avenger, Radioactive Man. The larger Simpsons in-show and real-world comic universe is a topic that I've wanted to talk about with Warren for a while now. So I decided the best way to start the conversation is with a dedicated spotlight on the greatest hero of them all this week. But before we get into that, I want to remind all you loyal Showbox listeners that live in Jax and the surrounding area that we're getting back on stage next month, record a live podcast, and you're all invited. Come out for a Spider-Man themed live show on Friday, December 10th. We'll be recording the show at the Brian Gooding Planetarium at the Museum of Science and History. That's Mosh for all you Jax locals. Come be a part of a live audience and register for some free tickets by visiting the link in this episode's show notes. We'll be talking about Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery to celebrate the upcoming release of the Spider-Man No Way Home movie.
God help us.
And if that's not enough of an enticement for you, what about the promise of a world premiere for a new short box project that's been years in the making? You won't want to miss out if you're in Jax or the surrounding area that night. Invite some friends if you got them. Grab some free tickets while they're available. And be there for the event on December 12th.
Invite some friends.
Yeah, come on out. We're gonna have
if you got them.
Yeah, we're gonna have Botter's underwear on display for everyone to smell. It's gonna be wonderful. He's gonna pass it out like a creepy priest, you know.
No, that's actually how we're gonna clear out the show when we go over the amount of time I paid for, because it's extra amount of money a minute for every minute. So
come on, Drew.
Someone's gonna look to the side when no one wants to leave and be like, "Get the underwear."
Break in case I'm cheap, which is all the time. All right, but with that, and last but not least, real quick, before we get into the main event, earlier this week, the ranks of the Short Box Elite grew by 1. So I'd like to formally welcome our newest Short Box patron, Kara Reichart. Kara, thank you for becoming a Patreon subscriber. Thank you for your support. And give yourself a round of applause for making maybe the smartest decision you'll make all year. All right,
your whole life. This is the best decision you've made your whole life.
I was being too modest.
If you have children, we're better than them. We're better than your children. If you have a husband or wife, we're better than them as well. Thank you for making us a priority.
Yeah, I mean, it's no offense to them. It's just we set the bar.
No, there's no disrespect. High. It's just that's the way it is. That's the value systems.
You also don't make the rules. I mean, if that's just how it is. I mean, you can't help it.
True. Very good. Warren, you're going to go places. You keep sucking up, you're going to go places. With all that said, it's time to get into our main event and talk about Bart Simpson's favorite comic book, Radioactive Man. If you're a listener who was lucky enough to own any of the comics from the 1993 or 2000 Radioactive Man comics, we'll specifically be talking about Radioactive Man's origin from issue 1, as well as issue 88, which is the first appearance of his sidekick, Fallout Boy. So follow along if you got those, or do yourself a favor and consider watching these Radioactive Man focused episodes of The Simpsons. There's episode 21 of season 2, titled 3 Men in a Comic Book, one of my personal favorites. Or you can check out episode 2 from season 7, appropriately titled Radioactive Man. I think those would give you a good grasp of the character if you're unfamiliar or you want to see more of him in action after this episode. Gentlemen, I'll look to you and ask, how straightforward and comical is Radioactive Man's origin? I mean, you got wealthy layabout Claude Kane III. He acquires his powers after surviving an atomic bomb explosion while on the way to collect his weekly allowance from his rich scientist father. I feel like that is an origin dream waiting to happen. Who might I add? His scientist father, right? Not only developed said atomic bomb, but he was a hostage of 2 comically stereotypical Russian, for sure Russian too, Cesar.
Oh, yeah.
You notice in this one, they were like, Mongol comics ain't afraid to be like, nah, the enemy is Russian, all right?
I mean, it's... Well, look, like if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. All right, let's play count the tropes here. All right, because that's what Radioactive Man is. He's always hitting on all the comic book tropes, right? So his name, first and foremost, Radioactive Man, is obviously a pun on how every superhero in the 60s had their. How did he get his powers? I don't know. We're in the age of the atom. Something radioactive. Either he got bit, either he survived an explosion. Either he was experimenting on something he should have been. You know, it's all there. And the fact that he's a worthless layabout is what they say. I'm just a rich guy. My daddy's got money. What the fuck? Who gives a shit? That's great. That it's always like a man about town or wealthy playboy millionaire. Like it's kind of like, come on now.
Well,
it's like taking. I was going to say, it's like all the traditions of Marvel and DC are both being parodied. And I don't know. It's strange. Butter, you said this comic came out in 93?
Well, yeah, the first series came out in 93.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if people are old enough to understand what was being parodied, right? Like, I feel like there were some people who got into it that just liked it on the surface level and maybe didn't know why. So if you're listening to this episode, I feel like this is the best place to start, so that way you can kind of hear like all the little tropes that get made into sort of parody regarding Radioactive Man. Go ahead, Warren. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, my favorite thing about it is that it from the first issue, it lets you know it's like, oh no, this is issue 1. It's from 1952.
Right.
So like it dates it right away. And I think, there are a lot of tropes, but I think some of the things about it that I love are that it sort of flips the tropes. Like he's in love with this woman
Gloria Grand.
and she can't stand him. Like he's like,
Yeah, that's
like
Lois Lane. She hates Clark Kent.
it's true, but also as it goes on, the love interest never develops. I mean, when you go into, no spoilers, but when you go into issue 88, like clearly they've developed some sort of relationship and she still hates his guts. Like he's like, "Oh, I'll make it up to you. We'll go to lunch." She's like, "Seriously, it's fine." Like it's fine, So I think it's really interesting how it sort of plays with that dynamic and makes it it doesn't actually blossom into love. It blossoms into resentment.
Right, because there's the comedy.
And I think aside from Radioactive Man's, I mean, as far as his power set, super strength, the ability to flight. I think he's got like radioactive powers as well. I think his greatest superpower is just being oblivious. Because Warren, to your point, in issue 8, I found that one page towards the end pretty comical where he's flying back after fighting. Was it Magmar? What was it?
Magmo.
Magmo. Thank you. After fighting Magmo. And like he's like, "Damn it, I just missed lunch with Gloria. I got to go make it up for her." And she's like, "Nah, I already took lunch. I already continued on with my day." I think Radioactive Man's like just being so oblivious to Cesar's point is such a it's so funny.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think you look back to his origin, like in the beginning of number 1, and we're going to get into it a little bit more in depth, but how he's like, "Oh, I've got to find a hat or something to cover up this lightning bolt." And the moment he goes to rescue her, she's like, "Why are you wearing that ridiculous hat?" Like she just hates him. I find that so funny.
Which I mean, I was gonna save it towards the end of the show for our what did we learn? But it was pretty cool to learn that lightning bolt is like ingrained in his fucking head, like it's a permanent thing. And now he's got like the trope of always wearing a funny ass hat everywhere he goes. I think in issue 88 when he meets fucking Richard Nixon, Richard Nixon's like had that thought bubble. What's this idiot doing wearing a hat indoors?
Right. And
Peru.
And to the point where it's an ongoing joke that he's constantly trying to get it removed, and something always comes up. It's like, we're gonna have to get back to that bolt later. I'm not gonna be able to do it. He's like, my attempts to have a normal scalp have been dashed again.
Which reminds me a lot of
classic Kirby, the thing.
Thank you. You beat me to it. See, exactly. Yeah, the comic tropes and just it being such a big love letter to the golden age, the atomic age, and just like all those classic comic book characters. They wear it on.
It's funnier because like you never like the deformity in like Fantastic Four is like, oh man, it's completely permanent and it's all over his body and it's not really a joke. It's kind of horrific, and this guy has to live with this, right? Like there's some real drama going on, and then you look at Radioactive Man, and his deformity is funny, like. It's like, what does that say about us that we could laugh at this man who has a big ass fucking lightning bolt coming out of his head?
Yeah, we're just terrible people.
Like it's like the human condition. Hilarious. You're a mutant.
Warren, being the man when it comes to collecting all things related to Simpsons, what's your Radioactive Man comic collection look like? Like, would Bart be proud of what you got?
I think he would. So it's one of those things where we talked about how my favorite thing about the comics is that they sort of dip in. So they create the illusion. And if you go into the comics not knowing this, you're going to be pretty confused. You cannot collect all of them because they only made snippets throughout this, fictional timeline. So it's like, oh, this goes from 1 to 88 to 216 or whatever, all the way up to like 1,000, but there's only 16 issues. And then, you have some random appearances of him and other things. And I do believe I have almost all of them. I might be missing like 1 or 2. But the funny thing is, again, when I started collecting the comics and didn't, I had forgotten that was the case. I was like, man, why am I having such a hard time finding some of these issues? And it's because they don't exist.
You're like, wait a minute, I've got issue 318. I've got 61. I'm missing a bunch.
It is mad confusing to try to keep track of it. I mean, like, I sent that mycomicshop.com link, and there's only 2 series for Radioactive Man, according to that. And when you open each one, it's like, I mean, it's a Warren's point, the numbers that they jump from. But it's kind of cool to know that like that was purposeful, right? Like
Yeah.
they wanted the reader to feel like they could follow the evolution of Radioactive Man from like his origin in the 1950s, which is dated. All of those comics are dated. Much different, like the 1993 series. The issue 1 is dated 1950, and then you got like a 1968 date on another one. But it's kind of cool and funny that they committed to that joke of like, look, we're gonna confuse the shit out of comic book price guys and collectors, but this is way too funny. And you know, we're taking you into the world of Bart and how he would kind of collect, you know, Radioactive Man, and to be able to see like these big milestones.
Yeah, and to that point too, I want to say, you know, one thing that I find interesting, and we're talking more about Radioactive Man than we are, you know, Bongo comics in general, but I do want to say that I think it's really cool that Radioactive Man, or at the very least Bartman, who, you know, it's just his obsession with Radioactive Man, that was used very heavily to launch what Bongo would go on to do. Like, you know, the Simpsons comics and stories and little projects like that were some of the first things that led to Bongo. So I think it's cool to see how clearly this went on to be, you know, it was always meant to be Simpsons comics and Bart Simpson comics, but Radioactive Man and the whole Bartman angle of that was, you know, one of the reasons it popped off from the beginning. I think that's kind of cool that they use this superhero trope to launch comics that end up not being about superheroes, but it helped them get in that space.
So on the topic of Bongo, I wanted to highlight the creative team for these issues that we're highlighting today. So the creative team for the issues that we were all supposed to read are also the same creative team for the entire first run of Radioactive Man comics from the 1993 series. I think you get some additional artists and inkers and whatnot for the second run in 2000.
Yeah.
But in this first run, you got Steve Vance on script and layouts, his wife Cindy Vance as co-plotter and colorist, and then of course you got, you know, Bill Morrison credited for finished art, which would also probably include like inking duties.
He's the inker. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Warren, I understand, and Warren, I understand that of this trio, Bill Morrison is your favorite artist to ever draw The Simpsons, and you've also interviewed him for your podcast not once but twice.
Right.
So I wanted to hear from you. You know, can you tell us about Bill's contribution to Radioactive Man and Bongo comics?
Oh, for sure. So one thing that's cool to know about Bill Morrison is the reason he even got a job for The Simpsons is he was working in like an advertising agency, and he knew people that were familiar with his work from working on, you know, posters for Disney and all these other things that he was doing that were far more complicated than, you know, Matt Groening's art style. But Millie Smythe, who was very important in the world of The Simpsons and Futurama and other Matt Groening projects, she knew Matt. She, you know, recruited Bill to come work on merchandise for The Simpsons. So a lot of that early merchandise, the video game artwork, you know, a lot of the packaging for Mattel, things like that, Bill Morrison drew most of that. I mean, there were other artists, but to say Bill did a lot of it is an understatement. Like Bill was the main Simpsons artist in those early days when it came to anything print. So when he got the opportunity to start Bongo with Matt Groening and Steve and Cindy Vance, that was like a dream come true for him. I mean, he talks about how, like, you know, it was so exciting and there was so much hype about those early days because Fox didn't own the publishing rights. Matt did. So they were really able to do so much cool stuff, and they knew they were going to get to try a lot of cool stuff with these comics. And Matt allowed them to stretch their legs and
That's,
you know,
yeah, that's, I was about to say, that's good.
And try different things. And he really, you know, wanted them to bring in, you know, writers and people from other comics and do all this cool stuff. So Bill's contribution is often, I wouldn't say underappreciated, but just straight up, it's something that it took people too long to realize. I mean, even when it comes to Futurama and other projects. So, you know, I'd say his contribution to the art style and just the overall thing that what Bongo would become for 2 decades, Bill deserves a lot of that credit.
Well said.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up, it seems like at least from an artist's perspective regarding the Radioactive Man comics, he kind of takes somewhat of a back seat and lets like Steve sort of do, like, dude, scripts and layout is fucking hard. That shit is hard to do. And not to say inking isn't hard. Inking, you have to have a clean style in order for this stuff to pop. And I looked at some of Bill Morrison's artwork, and by God, does he have all that. And just some of the tributes that Steve does in these books, and some of the stuff, for those who are maybe not aware of his work, if you ever listen to ska music, he did the cover of Welcome to Rockview for Less Than Jake. Steve Vance also does a lot of the Mystery Science Theater movie posters. He's freaking phenomenal. However, he does have a different style than Bill, and I think together, when they create a comic, you get sort of like Steve's kind of dynamic sort of poses and the way he lays things out, with Bill's sort of really clean, sort of Kirby-esque. I would say fairly. This might be too much of a fucking thing, but he's kind of fucking Frazetta-ish with his inks, man. It's clean, it's smooth, it's rounded out, very, 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 very tight technically. And you said Cindy does the colors as well, right?
Yeah.
Can't, man, like it's like a freaking 1, 2, 3 knockout punch. Like it's so good. And like it's something that I didn't intend on, I guess, geeking out over, because Botter let me borrow 3 of the comics as per your request, Warren, and is like, yo, these are the ones. And so many of the jokes in there are so funny. But at the same time, there's a lot of visual stuff that if you're like into 60s comics, that even art style wise, you have to laugh at. Just some of the designs, like there was always a magic user guy on the team. There was always like an alien guy on the team. There's a damsel on the team who is really good at something very, very, very specific. And then you have a Superman type guy, right? And it's so funny to see how they play with all of these from a visual perspective within the layouts, because like those old 60s comics were always trying to cram so much artwork into a small box, and they do it like it's phenomenal. Like there are so many visual layers, and I think it's a testament to both Bill, Cindy, and Steve. And I think there was somebody else mentioned as far as the artwork is concerned, because I know I saw that for the Who Washes the Washmen comic. There was somebody else that was credited on there. And I don't want to do them any injustice, but yeah.
See, what's your what is your Simpson comic collection looking like? Because last time I was over, you busted out what I think was a Treehouse of Horror maybe issue, and it had like a Bernie Wrightson story or whatnot.
I'm not going to front. I have little to no Simpsons comics, nothing Bongo at all. And the only reason I have that comic is because Bernie Wrightson was in it, and Bernie Wrightson's like my favorite artist. So, but this was a welcome treat. I more or less was familiar with a lot of the Bongo stuff that wasn't Radioactive Man, which is funny to say now that I've been exposed to this radioactivity. And it's cool because yeah, no shit. I get to kind of experience this. It's really funny, and it's very niche, which is kind of I don't know, I guess Futurama is kind of that way too, funny in a niche sort of way, where you're like, okay, all right, like not everybody that likes The Simpsons can approach Futurama and dig it. But if you're hip to some of the tropes they're making fun of, you're into it. Like I feel like Radioactive Man is kind of like the Futurama version of that. Like if you're a 60s comic book fan, you can approach Radioactive Man and it'll hit you the same way Futurama does. But if you don't get all those tropes, you're not gonna, I don't think the comic's gonna be good in the same way. You're not going to laugh as hard. Just I'm laughing at. So what's the name of the Doctor Strange character that is on the analog version of their Justice League?
The Superior Squad? That's the name.
Yes. He's got like a hood, and like you only see his eyeballs, and he's always doing this.
Yeah, it's Plasmo the Mystic.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick, to add to C's point, on the topic of like using not only like visual aspects of like, you know, your 60s and your golden age, but how cool is it that they literally include artifacts from like these old comics? You know, I opened up the issue to go find the name, but The very first page after the cover is a one of those old like gag jokey products that mail in order.
Oh, the
that you could
ads.
buy. Yeah, thank you. The ads that you could buy, like the fact that they took the time out to make, and I mean, it's a lot of ads, it's a lot of text, it's a lot of. It looks just like it. Like you could swipe by it, thinking, "Oh, this is a fucking old comic book ad. Let me keep on moving." But even
X-ray
these-
goggles.
yeah, like even the like a live pet stink bug, a surprise package, and flesh eating plant. Like even these are kind of funny to read through and catch and whatnot.
Yeah, and to the point that they even had like they had letters from fans in Radioactive
cool.
Man #1. Like you can read some stuff in the back. And they did that. That kind of comes from Simpsons Illustrated, which is sort of what birthed Bongo, which is sort of what started all this. But one thing I do want to throw in, I'm talking about Bill Morrison and Steve and Cindy Vance. Bill also told me that during those days, like in the early days of Bongo, they were basically like, having sleepovers to finish these comics, to the point that like Bill would almost like skip part of the process and go straight to inking because they had it dialed in so hard and they just didn't have the time. So he would just, go right into get it from Steve and go right into the next step. And just like, it's really incredible to look at what they were doing and how much fun they were having despite the amount of work. But also I always point out that it's some of the best looking art, period, for anything Simpsons are these comics. And I think that's just a testament to how much they enjoyed what they were doing because they loved comics and they knew comics. And so they got to, it's almost like Mad Magazine. They got to parody these things that they like and make fun of them.
I think nothing.
It is a tough thing to do, to make a comic book. And if you and your team aren't working together with that chemistry, it's going to show. It's definitely going to show. And thank God that they had that sort of sleepover energy, which is basically Giggle Fest 2000 whatever. Like it's like, oh, your friend's over. Yeah, everything's funny because I'm sleep deprived.
I think their love of comics is apparent from the jump. And when I say the jump, I'm talking just the covers, right? I found that article. I'm sorry, not even prior to finding that article where they compared the comic swaps. Warren, you would send me photos of some of the comics, the Simpsons comics.
Thank you for finishing that sentence.
Huh? Oh.
I said, thank you for finishing that sentence. Warren, you would send me photos, pause, of comics.
Yeah. But you would send me photos of those Bongo comics and these Radioactive Man comics. And granted, I think some of them you might have not recognized, but I'd be like, wait a minute, that's a cover swipe of like this Jim Steranko X-Men cover. Oh, wait a minute, that's a Watchmen cover. So I think to Cesar's point, if you are a comic fan and you've kind of like read your fair share of comics from both the big two and the Golden Age stuff, and even like like Spawn #1 gets a cover swipe. I think just from the covers alone, you have a really fun time kind of picking out like, oh shit, this is a fucking montage, or they're paying respect to comic legends like Kurt Swan and his like Legion of Superhero cover. And the Batman movie special comic by Jerry Ordway,
Jerry Ordway,
bite that, so it's like, I felt like Radioactive Man, and even maybe just it's safe to say Bongo Comics at large, is a giant love letter to the comic books that that we love, but also it's very apparent like the influence that they've got. And Warren, I wanted to ask you because among not only the covers that I was able to identify from a lot of the stuff that you sent me, but much like C was saying, that it sounds like Bongo Comics also had a pretty stellar roster of like guest artists and writers. I mean, I think Paul Dini writes. No, I know Paul Dini writes the intro to this Radioactive Man hardcover. But C had mentioned, comic legend like Bernie Wrightson doing a Simpsons issue. Are there other artists that you noticed?
Man, so it's one of those things where I think early into the run, especially on like the Treehouse of Horror comics and some of the Radioactive Man stuff, they really were just like, we want to get the creator of Starman to come in and do a copy or do a story for us, or they would have different people come in and do art in their style. And I think that that's really interesting because, I want to point out when we talk about the cover swaps that now a big thing is like mashup art. You have artists like Thumbs that are huge for doing essentially like, the Simpsons as Pokemon and things like that, seeing these like parodies of different styles of art told through a different character, And I think one of the earliest examples of that outside of Mad Magazine were a lot of these Simpsons comics. And I think they really, if you look through a list of the color swaps, it's everything from Batman to Watchmen to Spider-Man to, I mean, they go across the board. Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to work on comics like that with people like Paul Dini and Bernie Wrightson, I want to say even Jeff Darrow, maybe, like I can't even, it's like so many people, like being able to do that and have that sort of fun. They would even get to the point where they would bring in, like they did an issue with Alice Cooper and Gene Simmons.
That's
Treehouse of
beautiful.
Horror, you know? So they were just having so much fun with these comics. And I think that is such a testament to what Bongo was. And I was sad when it closed up shop in 2012, but it had a really good run for something that is at best a accompaniment piece to a show like The Simpsons. So
That's great. 2012, you said?
2012.
Wow, the Mayans were right. Damn it. Damn you.
Warren, Warren, as someone who knows pretty much damn near everything when it comes to the actual Simpsons show, what did you? I'm sorry. Is there any key differences between the origin of Radioactive Man and his sidekick Fallout Boy that differ from the comics from their show appearance?
So I will say the first time you actually really get the origin of Radioactive Man in the show, it is in 3 Men in a Comic Book, like you said, which I do want to point out. I do own a cell from that episode where they are fighting in the treehouse. I'm very proud of that cell.
Warren, you don't got to impress us. We already we know you're the man.
Well, see, I wrote in my notes here, make sure you say things that impress Botter and Cesar.
Burn that.
I'm sorry, I'll delete that. Okay. No, so you see them by issue number 1 in that episode, and the origin is very similar, but obviously you only get the bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an exact thing, but it is roughly the same. I mean, he gets caught in that radiation, something lands in his head and he becomes radioactive. So it's very similar. The first time you ever see Radioactive Man, though, is in Bart the Genius. I don't know if you said that up top, in season 1, episode 2, and he looks nothing like the Radioactive Man that we know. And you could also find him in early merchandise drawn sort of not the way we know him. So they knew right away that was going to be a thing. Like it was going to be like one of Bart's things as he's into this comic book superhero, but it took them a couple years to flesh him out, about 2 seasons to really start seeing him the right way. But yeah, they sort of knew. I wish they would have done more with him in the show, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think like we had discussed, the main 2 Radioactive Man focused episodes are 3 Men in a Comic Book, and then the Radioactive Man episode where they're trying to reshoot the movie and whatnot. So in regards to that, speaking of that episode, actually, because we know Milhouse ends up getting the role of Fallout Boy in that episode. Does Fallout Boy's origin differ from the comic books to the show?
So I really don't think that they well, actually, yes, it does. So in the show, you essentially see Fallout Boy fall under like a laser that then shoots him and turns him radioactive. And so they're like, he's like, is this dangerous? And they're like, we're checking on that. And, they like set up the shot. So it is actually, because in the comic, it sort of happens because if I go through every point right now, it'll be forever. But essentially, Radioactive Man changes his course by making him stop reading these evil comics. And then later he meets the same kid as himself and not as Radioactive Man. And while trying to save him, they are left hanging on a machine that transfers radiation through him into Fallout Boy. So he actually sort of gets his powers from Radioactive Man, sort of indirectly. Whereas in the movie, it looks like he sort of gets it from like trying to stop traffic or something like that. It's almost like he didn't have powers at first.
Yeah.
So I found that a little bit interesting on this reread, because I never really thought about that, how it would be different.
Yeah, and to think about like the placement, right? Like, if we're following Radioactive Man's fictitious historical lifespan in the comic books, Fallout Boy doesn't. Rod Rutledge, is it Rod Rutledge? I think is the identity of Fallout Boy. He does become even though he makes an appearance in issue 1 of Radioactive Man, as the delinquent that Radioactive Man stops from stealing. Not even stops from stealing a TV, actually helps him deliver the TV to his house, which I think is super comical. But Fallout Boy doesn't make his appearance until issue 88, which is just issue 2 of Radioactive Man.
Yeah.
But I love the spider. Like, not only just the homage to, Peter Parker and Spider-Man's origin, but literally that Peter Parker makes an appearance, in that issue.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so fucking comical. And even like the jokes about superhero sidekicks. I thought when Fall Out Boy is giving his origin and he talks about like, his aunt that is basically in a coma. I forgot what he called it, but she had like fevers or something. But he was like,
It's not funny.
he's like,
it's so funny when she's like dying.
No. It's more. I'm saying it's funny when he's like, yo, Claude Kane. I now live with Claude Kane, which is your Batman Robin trope. He makes a comment about like paying the right caseworker to like live with Claude Kane was hysterical, man.
It's funny because it's like I'm laughing because you have all these. It's like what if Marvel in the 60s were written by crackheads? Where it's like you have like, oh, Peter Parker, he's Spider-Man, but he has the troubles of an everyday man, like a sick aunt. It's like, oh, Aunt May's sick and she can't pay the bills, and it's like, nah, what if she was in a coma and he's dirt poor? It's like, what? Now he's gonna live with a creepy older guy.
They really weave in like, in my opinion, maybe a much edgier sense of like humor into like. Of like the traditional classic Simpsons, like it still feels like, oh, this could easily be, fit into the whole Simpsons world.
Yeah, not for children is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but I want to say, you talk about the Peter Parker cameo. The hardest I laughed on this read, because I haven't looked through some of these in a few years, and it was really funny to me to see like, oh, wouldn't it be great to get these sort of powers? And you see a spider land in his hand. And he's like, oh my God, get this spider out of here. Like that is such a funny misdirect. That's such a Simpsons style joke. But I got to say this too. And we're talking about how these stories are dumb and some of them sort of are. But I will say that like, and this is my bias talking, if you took these same stories and told them with a little bit more finesse and a little bit less humor, I think they would actually make for some pretty cool stories. Like I do think peppered in throughout.
Yeah, it's the Marvel universe.
Yeah, well, sure. But I think peppered throughout these stories, there is somewhere hidden in there an actual story that could be cool and at least a little. I mean, it would. I guess it wouldn't be different, but you could make a cool story out of this without the jokes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Probably. I'll tell you another strength of these two issues we read is. I mean, Cesar already praised the art and Steve and Cindy and Bill, but I just want to reiterate the art in this is fantastic. And especially when you get to a lot of like the splash pages, like the 1 page kind of like big panels, and in issue 88 when they fight Magmo. I keep saying Magmo. Thank you. But there's a few really badass splash pages, like when you first get to meet Magmo, when Radioactive Man and Fall Out Boy both like knock out Magmo, like they capture that like that energy of that splash page so well. Like they know what they're doing, man.
Yeah, even that page with Radioactive Man, like with the American flag.
Oh yeah, that's sick. That's a good
like
one.
that is like so good. Even the one where he gets, when he gets the radiation and it says Vada Voom behind him.
Where the atomic bomb's going off.
Yeah, that is a really cool shot. I mean, any of those would make incredible posters. And then, again, these are obviously based off tropes, like we keep saying, and that so they have something to go on, but also just artistically, they're beautiful, they're colorful, they're bright.
They don't feel dated neither at all. Like they feel like they could stand like, they could be released today and they'd match up. And I think it's just so clean.
Yeah. I do want to say this because I made a note of this and it's interesting because, obviously Radioactive Man, he falls into the origin of the show. Or you hear about the character in the show from episode 2. So like right there in the beginning, Bart talks about Radioactive Man. He might even mention him in the Tracy Ullman shorts. I didn't even think about that. But before Bongo even existed, there was an NES game called Radioactive Man Bartman Meets Radioactive Man, which also had art by Bill Morrison. This was 92. And some of the characters that they end up expanding on in these issues are sort of there in the cover of that video game. You have Dr. Crab. You have someone that looks very similar to Magmo on that cover. And this game was terrible. It was essentially like a reskinned like Mega Man wannabe. It's horrible, but it's one of the best covers of any of the NES games. And it's also like expensive and rare because I'm sure most people broke their copies in frustration. So, you know, it is worth tracking down, and it is sort of a relic of the time. It does not feel like a Simpsons game, but I do think it's cool how Radioactive Man was this growing presence in even the merchandising world of the Simpsons. And he still is to this day. So I do think that's a cool little detail to throw in.
I'm gonna go ahead and add in that McFarlane toys set that they did of Radioactive Man and Millhouse as Fallout Boy.
Oh yeah,
Still eludes me because that shit is expensive as hell, but it
It-
looks so damn good.
it 100% is. And Playmates also made one. A little bit easier to find, but also not cheap. So yeah, you're going to be forking out some cash for the Radioactive Man gear.
You're trying to do a kill botter? Don't say that. Don't say that out loud.
Warren, I know on your podcast, Simpsons is Greater Than, you should be subscribed now, that, you know, when you do your Q&A episodes, you tend to sometimes take in, like, you know, fan theories or address fan theories and questions from your listeners. So this next one is for you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that article I added from Comic Book Resources, but it was an article talking about a fan theory that Bart's admiration and love of Radioactive Man is somewhat tied to his father, in the sense that, you know, there's the similarity that both Radioactive Man and his father both deal with you know, his father works at a nuclear power plant, so there's that tie. But and this is something I noted prior to seeing this, that Radioactive Man kind of looks like Homer, you know, design wise, you know,
Definitely.
especially in the face. Granted, he's not, you know, he's definitely more in shape, but, you know, with those similarities, I was curious to hear your thoughts on this fan theory.
So I actually did not have a chance to check that out, but I have heard similar things. So maybe I've come across that theory before. What I will say, as you know, as someone who's constantly sort of putting the Simpsons under a magnifying glass, is that I think what we learn about Bart is that he sort of admires everyone other than his father for qualities that his father has in some way. Like, you look at how much Bart looks up to Krusty the Clown. Bart, you know, Homer looks just like Krusty the Clown, as we see in Homie the Clown. You throw a wig on Homer and a little face paint, he looks just like him, to the point that that was originally something they had considered on the show to make Homer actually be Krusty, so that the joke is, oh, Bart hates his dad and looks up to Krusty, which means he actually looks up to his dad. And I think you can sort of take some of that same baggage over to Radioactive Man. It's like, Radioactive Man, even in his dialogue in the books, is dumb. He is sort of the way Homer would be if he were a superhero. So I do think there is something to that. Bart doesn't realize that a lot of the qualities he admires in people like Krusty and even superheroes are actually not that far off from his dumbass dad. And I think that is really sort of interesting to unpack about Bart as a character.
I said I was going to let you psychoanalyze The Simpsons one time. That's it, baby. That's it. How about we go ahead and close out this segment by offering...
Hold on. I got a question here.
Oh,
I've
go ahead.
been sitting on this for a while.
Hit me.
So as far as Bill Morrison's concerned, one thing that's kind of common as far as comic books are concerned is a house style. And that's something I think we should bring up, in that you said that the Bongo comics and Radioactive Man have had sort of like a rotating door as far as different artists are concerned, right? And they all have different styles. Do each of these styles differ based on their stories, or do they maintain that same sort of Matt Groening house style, if you will?
So that's what's so cool. And I'm not just using this as an opportunity to plug my podcast, but I would recommend going and listening to both Bill Morrison episodes, because we do dig into that just a little bit. They said that when they first started bringing in outside artists, they were concerned about changing up things. And a lot of these artists really wanted, like, you know, let me get the model sheets, let me get all these things so I can make it look more like the style. And when Bill and Matt would talk about this stuff, Matt was like, honestly, I say we let them sort of go nuts. So you will see, like, pretty early into the comics, but especially in like the Treehouse of Horror ones and then ongoing, where there are certain issues that could not be further from Matt's style. Like, they get lanky, they get rough, they get weird, to the point that some issues are drawn like hyper realistic, where they're almost done in like a traditional comic style, with only the Simpsons characters looking a little flat. And so the comics get really wacky. If you guys go back and look at my Instagram, Bart of Darkness, I posted a comic in October, one of the Treehouse of Horrors, and there's a whole story about these serial mascots coming to life and attacking the family. And the art style, you would never know that was actually official Simpsons artwork. It looks bananas.
Cool.
And so I think that's the coolest thing about the comics. So if you've never, it's like, let's say you remember those early issues from when you were a kid and you want to like see what I'm talking about, just start buying random issues. They're not really tied together. They do stick to the continuity of the show as far as that's possible anyway. And there's just some really, really, really cool stories, especially the Treehouse and especially Radioactive Man. So dig into that. They really get to play with that.
Is there any art to piggyback off C's question? Is there any artists that that you really like their version of the Simpsons like style?
Man, I'm trying.
That was gonna be my next question. I was gonna say, who now? Let's put Warren on the spot here. Bill Morrison or Matt Groening?
Oh, Bill Morrison. And I'm gonna say that
there
because,
goes a shot for ever getting that interview.
No, here's the thing. Matt Groening is a genius, and without his art style, there would be so many of the things that I love would not exist. I mean, he truly, the show's goal, even down to the animation early on, was to mimic Matt's style as close as possible. And Matt can still draw the Simpsons with the best of them. But the thing is, if you gave Matt and Bill a pen and said, draw Homer doing this, Bill would win that head to head every single time, because Bill is like a classically trained artist. Bill, he cut his teeth drawing movie posters for Disney, recreating classic images for Disney. So he is a very intricate and detailed artist who's also done stuff for DC and Marvel. He's worked for both houses. He's done posters for Mondo of Spider-Man that I would argue look as good as Spider-Man has ever looked. I think Bill is one of the best artists to ever do it. And so as much as I love Matt Groening, as much as he is like the reason for the thing that I love the most outside of reality exists in this on this earth, I think Bill would win in a head-to-head. So I got to say, as far as which artist has the coolest looking Simpsons take, that is too hard to narrow down. I
didn't ask that.
Yeah, there is a Treehouse episode. There's a Treehouse comic where I think it's like 10 different artists worked on it. And so like every few pages changes.
Sure.
And I will get the number for that to put somewhere on the internet, but you will find some really crazy stuff that you can't believe is licensed when you look at those comics.
Cool.
You don't have the number right now?
Yeah.
God
how are you supposed to be
damn it, Warren. You fucking shit the bed again. God damn it.
See, never mind. We got an amateur. I know.
Jesus
Off the
Christ.
streets, apparently.
How dare he know
You know how many
how dare he know
there are?
How dare he know 99.99999%?
There are so many Simpsons comics, and it is, I mean, come on, there's like hundreds. I couldn't possibly remember the number off the top of my head.
No,
and if
honestly,
somebody
man,
thinks that makes me a worse fan, I'll never come on this podcast again.
Honestly, man, I'm very happy you had an answer regarding that house style question, because it was really burning in my mind. Because that's, as far as comic books are concerned, that is one of the biggest things an artist will run into, is that, okay, I'm working for an established publishing company with established characters and IPs. How much room do I have to play around? And it's almost kind of a comment on what those publishing companies and what those people who are running those books, editors, value. Do they value art, or are they going to value the almighty dollar, or are they going to try and find a way to balance both? For me, I respect the individuals who value art. I understand it's a hustle. So it's kind of cool that Bill Morrison was like, look, Matt, what do you want to do? We got this thing, we got these badass artists. I feel like Bill is probably leaning more towards, letting them run around and do their thing. I also feel like Matt would have as well. So it was kind of like a win-win. Yeah. So I didn't know if you would have that answer, to be honest, and I'm glad you did.
Definitely makes me respect Bongo Comics a lot more. That wasn't just like a quick cash grab, for another line of merch. It was like, no, we all love comics here, and we're going to do it right.
Yeah, and I do want to add to that real quick that to the point where at the end of issue 88, which came out weeks after Jack Kirby had died, so it was very close to where he had died, and Steve Vance wrote like a tribute to Jack in the back and talked, called him the king, and talked about how we wouldn't be able to do what we do without mimicking the art of artists like Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby. So they really paid respect and had a, felt the need to say a piece about Jack and his passing, in the second issue of Radioactive Man. So I think that is cool that they love comics that much. They felt compelled to do that.
Well said. All right, to close out the segment, I want to ask you guys, what are some other comics, or just media in general, maybe that people should check out if they enjoyed this episode, if they're curious about Radioactive Man or whatnot? Warren, kick us off. I'm
gonna say, if you like the Radioactive Man comics, but you want something that's a little more Simpson centric, I highly recommend the 6-issue run of Bartman, because specifically in Bartman number 3, he is able to bring Radioactive Man to life by using this some gun machine tech thing that Kang and Kodos create, that is able to replicate media into real life. And so in an attempt to save the town of Springfield, he videotapes his Radioactive Man comic and brings him out of the comic to fight alongside him to save Springfield. And I think, these are clearly non-canon, which is why they're so fun. They're essentially like Treehouse episodes in that way that they get to do all kinds of wacky stuff. So I would highly recommend those, all 6 of those Bartman comics, but especially number 3, which specifically has Radioactive Man on the cover and sort of like a team up sort of issue. So I think you'll get a lot out of that when it comes to it. And if you're interested in just The Simpsons, I think you start right there at issue 1. They really knew what they were doing from the top. And if you enjoy that, just keep them coming.
Well said. So you want to add to that?
I mean, honestly, any of the first trades that Stan and Jack worked on regarding the Marvel Universe are concerned, you're going to find, it's funny because it's like everything Warren was asking for. I'm like, yeah, it's all there. Like the first 10 issues of Doctor Strange and Tales of Suspense or Journey into Mystery or, Astonishing Tales, all that stuff it's all there. And I guess maybe for hilarity's sake, you could look up Jack Kirby's Book of Monsters, because all that stuff, the Magmo stuff, it's all calling back to Jesus, the names that they came up with: Fing Fang Foom, Googam, Goom, like all those weird ass fucking consonant and three vowels of the same thing, like it's like, okay, so it's a lot of fun, all that stuff.
My dad said he opened up one of those books, and that's how he came about my name. He was like, "Ooh, bad Blotter,
Blotter, invader from Mars."
I'll go ahead and add to that and close this out by recommending, if you can get a hold of the 7-Eleven exclusive comic of Radioactive Man, that is well worth seeking out. It was released in conjunction with the Simpsons movie in 2007, around that time that they were doing the makeovers of the 7-Elevens to look like the Quickie Marts. But it's got, I think Bill Morrison is definitely involved in that. He writes the main story called The True Origin of Radioactive Man, which is literally just Radioactive Man retelling the same thing, but like very outlandish, and he adds some like creative liberties. But the art in this, and there's like I said, there's about 3 mini stories in the 7-Eleven comic book, but the art is so amazing. That first story I mentioned has art by Tone Rodriguez, which I'm not familiar with, but I'm about to get familiar with him. You've also got art by Michael DeCarlo, and then art by Hilary Barza. Those last 2 names I know were really involved with the second series of Radioactive Man in the 2000s. So those are probably worth checking out. But just that first story alone with that art by Tone Rodriguez, I mean, it is so good. It's stylized.
I was going to say, if you're a fan of Bongo, Tone Rodriguez, you're going to see his name a lot.
Yo, that's a bad man.
That is a Tone across the board.
Like that, dude.
Across the board, like even outside of Simpsons, you can look up his stuff. A fucking incredible artist, and he, a heavy hitter in Bongo land. Also, I mean, he is. When you talk about people that can draw the Simpsons well, Tone is up there, but he can draw it all.
He's insane with it.
He's really good.
And then last thing I'll mention, which really, for the most part, if I'm being honest, this was kind of a catalyst to getting this episode off the ground, is the Radioactive Man Radioactive Repository Volume 1. It came out in 2012. I checked on Amazon. There's a paperback version that's a little pricier than the hardback, which is kind of interesting. The hardback is you can get it for about $30 on Amazon, but it's probably your best bet of collecting all the majority of the issues of Radioactive Man from both 1993 and 2000 run. unfortunately, it's got it kind of like mixed up a lot of the issues. But Warren just confirmed prior to us hitting record that there is a few stories in this issue that were only, I guess, made for this hardcover.
Yeah. So what I noticed looking through it is that, and I could be mistaken, but I can't think of where these stories exist, because in the comics, like we said in the episode, they go from issue 1 to issue 88, and then they jump around from there. In this book, it goes from issue 1 to issue 22 to issue like 57.
Yeah, it's hard to make sense
before it even gets to issue 88. So there's definitely stories in this that I guess could have been in other publications. It could have been inside, like, say, a Wizard or something. I'm not sure, but they don't exist as actual comics outside of this volume 1. So I don't know if they were created for this book to further the idea that there's a history that isn't actually there. But either way, it's really cool. And, you know, I after looking at this book in person, I have to add it to my collection as well.
That is the biggest honor you could bestow upon me, that I inspired a Simpsons collection and your soon-to-be giant, collection. But my favorite part of this hardcover is that Paul Dini writes an introduction in such a funny, brilliant way. He writes it as if he's been a fan of Radioactive Man since 1960s, and he goes,
"That's a writer, right
there,
dude.
Hey, man, you know it. See, and I mean, it's like a 2-3 page introduction, and he's going through like, and I remember when the Radioactive Man TV show came out, and I was there when the animated, and it's like, you know, it is so great, and it really kind of, he just leans into the whole joke that is Radioactive Man, that he's been around since the 1960s. It's brilliant just for that alone.
That's the best argument. So, you know, we're talking about how these are kind of silly, and they're obviously, they steal from all these other properties. So, you know, that sort of discounts what they are in a way. But the idea,
No way, I didn't say that.
No. But I'm saying in a way it does. I mean, like, if you're going,
It's homage.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're going in expecting like a crazy story that's going to actually stick with you, it's not going to do that. Some of the jokes will, but the idea that they have been running this bit for, you know, essentially 25 years, to the point that they even have people like Paul Dini pretending that they have this fandom for this thing that isn't real. I just think that being in on that joke is a fun place to be,
For sure.
and it makes it worth reading in more ways than just admiring the art. It's a very
Big
cool
time.
Well said. All right, I think
Big
with that
time.
being said, we've shown our love for Radioactive Man, so I want to get moving to our next segment.
Up and at 'em.
So if you end up reading this series, or you just want to tell us what you think about Radioactive Man, I invite you to shoot us a short email to read on next week's episode by writing into theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. We're moving on to our first regular recurring segment now, so it's time to make a choice, Shortbox Nation. And if you've been listening to this show long enough, you know we only give you 2 options to choose from.
You can either have a mouthful of teeth or a fistful of comics.
Fistful of Comics is the part of the show dedicated to all you Wednesday warriors who loyally visit your local comic shops every week. Think of this as a show and tell highlighting only the best new comics on the shelves right now, in hopes of making it that much easier for you to grab a fistful of comics next time you visit your shop. This segment is sponsored by Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville's premier shop for comics, toys, collectibles, and more. If you live in the area or ever find yourself passing through Jack's, stop by the shop on Southside Boulevard and tell them the Short Box sent you. Warren, since you're our special guest, I'm going to go ahead and change up the rules for this episode. I know there's a lot more of the Radioactive Man comics you wanted to spotlight for this episode. It sounded like you had a fun time going down memory lane and reading a lot of the different issues. So how about you give a spotlight for one other Radioactive Man or Simpsons comic that is worthy of people's time?
So, you know, I was talking a little bit about Bartman issue 3 earlier, and that is another one that I actually read through again today. And, you know, I think, you know, we talk about homage within these Radioactive Man issues, and this one has it even more so, because not only are you seeing Radioactive Man and Bartman and Millhouse as a superhero under the name the Scarlet Whimpernel, but you also see the entire town as superheroes, because something happens to the planet that turns everyone into a superhero. Everyone
Oh my God.
has a superpower. So, I mean, to the point that Ned and Skinner and even Smithers are all just these ridiculous parodies of everyone from Thor to, you know, you name it, you see a parody of a character in this issue, all throughout Springfield. Edna is Vampire Edna, and she's just going around trying to suck everyone's blood. So if you want like a really good time and to see some weird character models that you will literally never see again, I think Bartman 3 is that. Outside of that, I would say Radioactive Man 1000 is a really
with
cool
the Spawn
issue
cover.
with the Spawn cover. I think it's one of the best looking covers and just a really cool story. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of these, especially with it only being 16 main issues, and then you got a couple stories with crossovers and things like that. So I think if this sort of thing interests you, like just grab, throw a dart. I think you'll have a good time with any issue.
Well said.
Have you read Earth X, Warren?
No, I have not.
No, essentially it's the exact same story you just said. It's Marvel's answer essentially. Oh, so Earth X, Universe X, and Paradise X were Marvel's answer to DC's Kingdom Come. And in that comic, basically the Terrigen Mists hit Earth, and pretty much like 90% of the I'm exaggerating, but like 90% of the population all end up becoming Inhumans, and they all have like abilities. And it's up to essentially the previous generation of superheroes to more or less guide / where are they now kind of thing. It's making me laugh because I'm like, yo, somebody over there had to have read that. They had to have read it and like kind of giggled to themselves and was like, all right, let's do it. Here we go.
That issue was 94. So that was like super early,
Yep.
but also they in this story, like the what they're trying to do is find a way to rewind time so they can sort of reset everyone back to normal. But yeah, I mean, just the character design of Milhouse as a superhero alone, I'm just going to recommend that highly to everyone. Even though I would argue his name, the Scarlet Whimpernel, is so bad, but in a great way.
I'm gonna go ahead and just shoehorn here for any Jim Steranko diehards and fans that love him as much as I do. There is a great 3-issue stretch of Simpsons comics from issue 36, 37, and 38 where every cover is an homage to a classic Jim Steranko cover.
Yep.
Issue number 37 of Simpsons comics pays tribute to X-Men number 50, which is the first appearance of Polaris. I'm sorry. And see, I know that you can already see the cover in your face. Like you don't even need to see it. You just see it in your fucking head. That very like, the issue where the cover where she's standing in the front looking like Magneto, like that green and yellow. It's they pay such a good. What's up?
As long as we're talking about this, and I'm really kind of disappointed you didn't bring it up, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Hit it.
The Spider-Man number 33 tribute.
Oh my God. Where Bart
where
is
Fallout Boy is lifting up the rubble the way Peter Parker does.
Oh yeah, in issue 88. Yeah.
Classic.
True.
Classic iconography. And the best part about that joke is that the payoff isn't as epic as the comic, because he just shows up, boom, just busts out from the bottom. It's like, where have you been? He's like, oh, just lifting up some rubble. Like totally deflates all of the epic, connotations of the original source material that they're drawing from. And it's just kind of like, yeah, we're fans. We get it. We're not. The joke is he didn't have to be like, Uncle Ben, I'm doing this for you. Aunt May, I'm doing this for you. My strength is actually my people and who love me, and I'm Spider-Man. He was like, nah, I just came up from the bottom.
Yeah, they're like, yo, cut all the melodrama shit, all right? Let's just laugh. Let's just laugh about this shit. All right, Warren, thank you for sharing that spotlight. And since we're on the topic of the, now to actually talk about the best new comic books out on the shelves, I asked our good friend Ben Kingsbury, the owner of Gotham City Limit Comic Shop, to chime in with his usual list of top 3 new comics that are either starting or coming out next month. So these are the comics that he feels like, hey, everyone should put this on their poll and be on the lookout for them. He doesn't want you to miss out on these. So let's go ahead and cue up the music and get to his list. First up on this one is a comic book series, looks like a new one at that, called The Fourth Man. Number 1 is going to be coming out through AWA Publishing. Ben writes a new murder mystery from the new hit publisher AWA. Yep, sign me up. The comic will be written by Jeff McComsey and artist Lee Luridge. It comes out January 5th. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, this next one is for you, and that's Mary Jane Black Cat Beyond number 1. Ben chimed in for this one and said that Black Cat has been kidnapped, and MJ is the only one that can save her. It's Ben's 2 favorite ladies from the Spider-Man universe and a comic made for an easily. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Ben's 2 favorite ladies from the Spider-Man universe and one comic made for an easy placement on this list. I see, Cesar, you've got your Spider-Man Marvel Legend
Sorry, what?
front and center. I think I got that one somewhere. All right, and last but not least on Ben's list is actually a shameless plug, which I respect. I respect the good old shameless plug, but it's worthy of its inclusion on this list because it is a brand new comic book that is coming out here soon. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 124, specifically the Gotham City Limit exclusive variant with art by Tyler Kirkham. It's going to homage the first TMNT movie poster from the 90s. So the one where they're all like peeking out from underneath the
Peeking manhole.
sewer top. Yeah. It releases December 8th. So the same day that this episode airs. Supplies will be limited, so check in person at the shop if you live here in Jacksonville or the area, or purchase one online at GothamCityLimit.com. I know he's got all of his store exclusive variants available for sale online. So even if you don't live in the area and you want to feel, and you want a piece of that 904 comic book love, man, go to GothamCityLimit.com and buy yourself an exclusive shop variant, and just tell everyone that you've been to the best comic shop in the whole U.S. Okay, just make it easy for yourself. So give those recommendations a shot next time that you visit a comic shop, or next time you're looking for something new to read. We're gonna go on a quick music break before we get into our last segments of the show. I've got something special for this episode, just for you, Warren. Okay, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I'm still in a DJ Crumbs kind of mood, so I'm gonna play some music from him, and we'll be right back to share our entertainment recommendations for all of you Shortbox Nation listeners to check out later this week. Don't go nowhere. Enjoy the music. I just gotta go tinkle, and I'll be right back.
Ew.
You want anything to drink?
I'm good, man. Thank you.
What about me?
Oh, I'll see you in an hour. I got something for you.
Technology will be there
Sweet.
soon enough.
Sweet. That's good. That is good enough. Damn it.
We'll just be able to reach through the screen.
Eventually.
Yeah, this hardcover is sick, man.
Well, what does it look like? Show it to me. Oh, that's nice.
Dude, it's really nice. I mean, you got the.
Oh yeah.
It looks really good.
Oh man, that's cool.
It's really cool. I need to get it. For some reason, I never bought it because I was like, well, I've got most of the comics anyway. Who cares? But like, there's stuff in here that's not anywhere else. I know it.
Oh man. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see what's the old price on Amazon is.
Yeah, I mean, like here you got we were just talking about like rip off covers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So good. I mean, the covers are so good, man. I actually really like. I had a note about this. We didn't get into. I really like the Superior Squad in general, like Purple Heart and Laura Lass and all those characters look so ridiculous. It's great.
Purple Heart. Oh my god, it's so fucking offensive, but it's great.
I love it.
It's beautiful. Look, I like that Laura Lass looks exactly like Jean Grey did in the 60s.
Yeah.
And that Purple Heart is basically Captain America, but he's got his arm in a sling.
In a sling, yeah.
Dude, I was like, this is perfect. It's perfect.
Also, there was one joke. Yeah. I think it was Bug Boy when he said, but that generator's glowing like a firefly on a hot date. That really cracked me up. Yeah, these are fun, man.
All right. That's good.
Purple Heart.
Yeah, that first
my boy.
first half was good. It was really fucking good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I meant to talk a little more about Superior Squad because I think they're all designed so funny.
Cute.
Like they
Plasmo, man.
Like they just look so Bug Boy.
And Captain Squid too.
Captain Squid.
He's got a bunch of, what is it, tentacles.
His team is also ridiculously big. I was like, oh, it's like 4 people. It's like 7 or 8.
Yeah, he rolled deep, man. Come on,
so many damn people. I just love Magmo. He looks so fucking cool, man.
Yeah. All right. Y'all boys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, Shortbox Nation. Once again, the music you just heard was by DJ Crumbs. If you like that, there's a lot more where that came from on his SoundCloud. Check the show notes for a link to that and show him some love, all right? Now, we don't have, before I say that, let me triple check right now because I don't think we had any emails to read. Granted, we are recording the day after Thanksgiving, so everyone's probably still in a food coma, so I won't hold it up against anyone, all right?
I am.
Yeah, true. No one loves us. I expected better from you guys. You guys should always be emailing us. But
Jesus Christ, Butter.
you just said that you weren't
Jesus
holding it again.
Christ.
I was having your back. You see what happened?
Jesus
He sets me up.
Christ.
He sets me up, and I look like the asshole.
Yeah, I think C's the one gaslighting people out here.
Yo, look, gaslighting's not real. You're crazy.
So I decided, in lieu of emails this week, in the sense we have a special guest, our man Warren Evans, that I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna take a page out of your book, Warren. I know that recently you started introducing a game on your podcast. Simpsons is greater than. You should be subscribed now. The synopsis game, right? So, and I understand that the rules are you give 5 synopses, and it's up to your guest to tell if they're real or not. And it's usually a fun game. You usually try to stump your guest. So I decided to make a version of that just for you. It's called the last minute game I created to fill the segment because we didn't get any emails this week game. So instead of asking about fake synopses, I'll be testing your almost what I feel like is almost a photogenic and endless well of Simpson knowledge with trivia questions related to the 2 main significant Radioactive Man themed episodes from The Simpsons, episode 21, 3 Men in a Comic Book, and episode 2 from season 7, Radioactive Man.
Let's do it.
I'm going to go ahead and cue up some dramatic tension music, to get this thing going. And let's see how many of these you can get right.
Check his phone, Butter. Make sure he's not looking.
Yo, for real, give me that phone, son.
So you got,
I got it.
You got 5 of these, and they are facts from those 2 episodes. And I tell you if they.
Well, it's not 5. It's more like 6 or 7 because I can't count.
Okay, that's cool. But I tell you if they're real or fake, right?
No. You're just they're basically just trivia questions.
Okay.
So you're just gonna give me the answer, right? I do encourage all of our listeners at home who declare themselves Simpson aficionados to play along.
Play along at home, yeah.
Yeah. And if you truthfully got a better score than what Warren gets at the end of this,
you get to own his house. That's it, guys. Play along.
He just
play along.
He just put in a new roof
as a consolation. As a consolation prize, you get everything that Warren owns. Everything.
If I don't get these,
his beard. You get his beard, guys.
It's gonna be ridiculous if I don't get these. I love both of these episodes, but I will say, and this is just gonna be like, I'm gonna preface
making
with this
excuses already.
in case somebody tries to dunk on me. Y'all have no idea how many Simpsons episodes I've watched. So if I slip on this, I don't want to hear it. But I'm not gonna slip. Let's go, baby.
Let me make an audio note. Insert tiny violin during that part. Right. But what I was getting at is, listeners, if you end up scoring a better score, we're gonna use the boys.
You get his car.
Yeah, you get his car. You get something, right? You will get something. I've got one of these Gotham City Limit exclusive variants for the Walking Dead issue that he did.
Damn, I'm about to pull the Michael Jordan. I'm about to pull the Michael Jordan. Fuck them kids. I don't want anybody to get anything, so I got to get these right.
All right. Like I said, if you truthfully get it right in, and we'll get you set up. But enough talking. Let's go ahead and get on with the game. I've got 6. It looks like about 6 questions for you. All right. We'll start out with something easy. Radioactive Man makes a full body appearance in 3 Men in a Comic Book, in the episode 3 Men in a Comic Book, but that's not technically his first appearance in the show. What is Radioactive Man's first credited appearance?
Bart the Genius.
What episode and season was that?
That is season 1, episode 2.
Well said. All right, ding ding.
January 24th, 1990.
All right, now you're just being a show off.
Or January 14th, one or the other. I can't remember.
All right, next question. Who is the fictional actor that plays the role of Radioactive Man in the 1950s era black and white serial that is mentioned in the Radioactive Man episode?
Dirk Diggler.
Ding ding.
Shit. Seriously?
Right. Warmed up. That's
star.
And don't be going back and inserting any sort of long pause. I'm answering these bad boys on the money, baby.
Potter, make sure you go back and insert the long pause.
I listened back to this episode, and Potter's gonna do a doom doom doom.
Yeah. Oh, time's up, Warren.
I might just throw in like me acting like Warren, like, geez, Potter, these are really hard. Let me think on that.
Mr. Black.
Yeah. All right. Next question. How much does Radioactive Man #1 cost Bart and Milhouse and Martin in the episode 3 Men in a Comic Book?
I believe it is $100.
So everybody says, ding, ding, ding. That is correct. All right. Well said.
Wow.
You're at the halfway mark, baby. You got 3 more to go.
Whew,
all right.
Let's go.
Question number 4.
Where's that tense music you were promising?
Well, I don't got to load it. I'm going to have to do it on post. I got it up right now.
Guys, this is the kind of crack organization we got going on here.
Leave that.
Good, it's a solid team.
I've only got 4 sound bumps, and all I've got is the 2 segments.
No, Butter, what you messed up. We have to blame it on someone non-existent and then fire them so we assert our dominance.
You're
yeah,
right.
He had it queued up, but Ed deleted it on accident.
You're right. That's why
Not-
Ed and Ashley ain't here. I just fired Ashley
Oh
because why
shit!
not?
I said fictitious. You gonna try and throw some shade at real people?
All right. For real, next question. Upon purchasing the comic, I'm sorry, where's right there? Upon purchasing Radioactive Man #1, Martin suggests that they keep the comic at each other's house on specific days. What days does he suggest that Bart, Milhouse, and himself split those up?
Oh man, that's really hard.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yo, give
man.
me your beard, son.
Yeah. So what I will say, and you can call this a cop out if you want. They say every day other than Sunday. And Bart says, Milhouse says, what about Sundays? And Bart says, yeah, what about Sundays? And then Martin says, we will decide Sundays based on a rock, paper, scissors competition. So while I do not exactly remember which days he suggests to Bart and Milhouse, they say every day but Sunday, and it will be decided by rock, paper, scissors. I hope I get at least partial credit on that.
So anybody that heard and got that, prepare. You can let the air out of Warren's tires right now. Butter's address is no.
I will give you partial credit because you pretty much got the gist of it. So Martin suggests that Bart gets the comic book on Mondays and Thursdays. Milhouse will get it on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then Martin himself will get it on Wednesdays and Saturdays. At that point, Milhouse asks about Sundays, and this is where you kind of jump this part, but Martin then suggests, well, then we'll just use a random number generator.
You're correct.
And then they split the numbers up. And then Milhouse says, well, what about 0? And then Bart's like, yeah, what about 0?
Yeah, what about 0?
And then they decide rock, paper, scissors.
That is true.
So partial credit,
Partial
which
credit.
is still good. Which is still good.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
You got two more. You got two more to Michael Jordan.
But I'm not gonna make excuses. Go ahead.
What was stopping Bart from getting the role of Fallout Boy when he auditioned for the Radioactive Man movie?
They said that he was too short.
Can you recall exactly the measurement? If you can recall the measurement of how short he was, I'll give you full credit for that other one.
Oh, okay. There really is a long pause here.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the sound of Warren soiling his jockeys.
Oh man.
All over the Short Box studio floor.
So you're asking how tall he actually was or how tall he needed to be?
What was the discrepancy in his height?
2 seconds.
The director says, we found our next Fallout Boy, is what I would be saying if you were just a blank inch taller.
Oh, I want to say 2 inches. I can't remember.
It was, he said, if you were just an inch taller, so a single inch.
That seemed too easy. I thought it had to be more than an inch.
All right. And you know what?
Man, if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me that.
But hey, I want to point out that's also very true. I want to point out that I got the question wrong. I just didn't get the extra credit question.
Fair enough. That's true.
Or I got the question right. I just didn't get the extra credit.
Warren was not going to let that slide. That's a very good point. All right. Well, last question for, to round this out, man. At the start of that same episode, Radioactive Man, Bart and Milhouse are in the comic shop, and Milhouse champions a blatant ripoff of Radioactive Man. What was the name of that comic character? And extra points if you could tell me his corny ass catchphrase.
So it is his corny catchphrase is "up and let's go."
Ding ding ding.
So I do know that, and I want to say it's just radioactive dude.
Great save. Absolutely right.
Because when Milhouse says explain how it's a lame ripoff, he says he has a much worse catchphrase that is "up and let's go." And Bart says it with such disdain that it's very funny. And Milhouse but Milhouse is being your classic, like comic book reading kid. He's like, explain. He's like being very like, I'm having a debate in the comic shop. So yeah, but I for some reason, radioactive dude seemed too easy also. So I'm glad that was right.
Hold on. Maybe I can give Warren a redemption question.
Oh,
well, I mean, I got them all right except for the extra credit.
Hold on. I mean, this
is good. Come on, see.
This is one I'm wondering now more just out of curiosity because it always makes me laugh. What did Alan Moore do to Radioactive Man that changed the comic book in Bart's eyes not to his detriment, because Bart still liked what he did?
That's a good one, see.
He made him not attractive.
Okay. What else?
I believe he made him a salesman of some sort and made him not attractive.
Very good.
And Bart admitted that he didn't even remember. Bart admitted that he didn't even read them anyway. He just liked the pictures of them fighting.
Bingo. That's it.
All right, Warren. I
Little
think,
Lulu, I love you, Lou, just the same.
Warren, I think this you deserve this, man. You deserve this round of applause for being,
thank you. You guys are too kind. Thank you. No, please have a seat. Thank you
for being such a good sport at my very last minute.
They can see us, Warren.
Oh, I forgot. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, speaking of which, by the way, once again, the video version of this podcast can be found on our YouTube, but it's only for our loyal Shortbox patrons. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can take a look at our mugs, man. Check us out in HD.
Yeah, get your bread up.
That's not going to sell
yeah,
it.
Exactly.
Just say this, lie to them. Tell them that we got an interview with. Actually, we found a way to interview Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. And they're with us in studio now, but you'll never know unless you subscribe to our Patreon.
Well, you got to remember, I'm on this
True.
episode, so that actually you might get some Patreon.
Yeah,
look, if you want to see
appeal today.
Yes. Oh my God.
All right, but look, if you never want to hear me do another random ass game show, then goddamn it, send in emails. This is what I've got to do when you guys don't send in emails.
Yeah,
right?
you guys fucked up.
I'm gonna say people might not send emails because that game is fun. I think people might like the game.
That's a good point.
The problem is, if we
maybe
play
you should
with
send in
anyone
emails
else,
that include games.
if we play with anybody else, it's not going to be fun.
Here's your phone back, by the way.
Oh, thank
he
you.
wasn't cheating.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God,
not
that's
cheating.
funny.
All right, listeners, but for real, if you want to send in a short email, or if you want to play a game of Stump the co-host and send us some trivia questions, you can write in a short email with your thoughts and or recommendations or whatever else it may be.
We're still gonna treat it like shit.
Forewarned, as you should probably know by now. But that email address, once again, is theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. Like I said, if you truthfully got all of those answers right and you beat Warren's score, which, let's be real, I mean, he only missed half of one.
Yeah, I only missed half of a question.
So,
but
I mean,
I'm gonna go ahead and say, all Michael Jordan glory aside, and all fuck them kids energy aside, you should probably just lie so Botter has to give you something.
You're
So
right.
I won't even be offended. So
Yeah, I won't be mad.
just send a compelling argument as to why he should give it to you anyway, and maybe he will.
Actually, I love that. Even if you didn't get it right, if you write in a compelling enough argument, and when I say compelling, it just means make us fucking laugh, then I'll send you this Gotham City exclusive variant for this Walking Dead comic here, all right? So once again, that email was theshortboxjacks@gmail.com. With that out the way, it's now time to champion some great entertainment from across the larger pop culture universe. Kids, grab your coins, because only the best of the best get talked about in this last segment.
Champion Season.
Champion Season is the part of the show where we highlight other worthwhile entertainment and recommendations that we feel deserves your attention. These could be much more than comics, but include our movie picks, TV series, books, or video games, and anything else we're hyped on this week. This segment is brought to you by Black Hive Tattoo, Jacksonville's premier appointment-only custom tattoo studio. If you're searching for a group of talented artists who will work with you to bring your comic culture ideas to life, then look no further. Go to blackhive-tattoo.com and sign up for their newsletter to find out when they're taking new project requests. You know, Warren, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever gotten any work done at Black Hive Tattoo?
Surprisingly, no, but my wife
that's-
has. My wife
Oh.
has, and I will vouch that Nick is great at what he does.
Damn right. Damn right. And we'll be hearing from Nick.
Yes. We love you, Nick.
And we'll be hearing from Nick at the end of this segment. But I figured I asked. You look like a man that has got great taste in tattoos, obviously.
Yeah, I secretly just hate getting tattooed, so I just do it as less often as possible.
Got it. Well, how about this? You know what? I've started with you all episode, Warren. I'm gonna look to our man Cesar to kick us off for
I
champion
guess that's
season.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you, kind sir. Please, Cesar, the Lord has blessed you. Tell us about your champions today.
He's only the Lord of the Simpsons.
True.
I'm the Lord of fucking everything. Anyway, Jesus Christ, no. So my champions are going to be lame after I just made that fucking Lord of everything. I have been on a Mike Flanagan kick big time. I think he's doing some of the best stuff as far as horror is concerned. It's flawless. Midnight Mass was great. I guess I'm going to champion The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. I think those are both solid shows. Yeah, it got me to the point where I just fell down like everything this guy has done. The prequel to the Ouija movie, which is shit, but the prequel is amazing because he did it, and you don't have to watch that first Ouija movie. You can just watch this prequel. And Oculus is a good horror movie as well. I mean, he was kind of cutting his teeth, but fantastic. Mike Flanagan is. I'll champion that man, and he needs to put out more things. And as far as comics are concerned, much to Ed's joke previously, I'm not going to champion a Goon comic, but I will champion the art and other mistakes of Eric Powell. I just got his art book, and it's fantastic. It is a hardback, filled. It's written very well because you get to see and read about his entire meteoric rise. And there's a lot of really good artwork in it from at all points of his life. I mean, this guy had talent out the gate. Like, he was that kid you knew in high school that like had like long hair and was like a badass artist, and you're like, like, damn, like, dude, what? Wow, you did this? Wow, this stuff's really good, and he was always like copying the comics from like, Jim, like not Jim Lee, but like from like the 80s, like basically like, all right, I'm going to copy this panel here with the sketch pad and whatnot. And it's a great book because you can be like, damn, man, like he's pretty normal. Like, we usually in the comic industry, it's easy to see, your heroes as larger than life, especially if they reached a certain level success wise, just from being able to sling a pencil, right? Eric Powell is no stranger to this, but it's good that this book, he has such a humble attitude. I mean, for God's sake, the title is The Art and Other Mistakes of Eric Powell, so yeah, definitely going to champion that, and Mike Flanagan.
Great championcy. Warren, what about you, man? What do you got for us this week?
So this actually came out a while ago, but I haven't been on Shortbox in a minute, so I do want to champion it. There's a graphic novel / comic / whatever you want to call it, put out by Jordan Morris and Sarah Morgan called Bubble. And that's essentially like a take on, the gig economy, but in a society that is dealing with monsters and various other things. So it's very funny, very lighthearted, but also very compelling, and sort of a glimpse into the horrible future I'm sure we're all going to have to deal with when we're older. So a really good and funny book that illustrated by Tony Cliff. It looks fantastic. I highly recommend everyone check that out. You might know Jordan from, he's a comedy writer. He's a podcaster, very funny guy. And it was actually a podcast before it was adapted into a graphic novel. So a lot of really good stuff there. Maybe check out the podcast if that interests you. In addition to that, I do want to champion. I got a lot of champions just because it's been a while.
Let them roll.
And I want to champion a couple of shows. So Why the Last Man, which is also based on a comic, as I'm sure a lot of you know. And I had never read the comic, but I had heard such good things about it, and I was very interested in the story. And I thought the show was fantastic. I hung on every episode. I couldn't wait week to week. And before the season was even over, it was announced that it was not being renewed by the channel, by the network, because COVID put them in such a delayed state that they had to have contracts figured out by this date, and some people were already doing other stuff. And a lot of things complicated this show getting renewed. The creators have said they want to shop it and try to get it put on another network. So go watch that show. It ends on a nice place. So, I mean, you'll still feel like you got a whole story. And if you like it, you should get online and just complain and bitch and tell people to watch it, because I hope it gets made somewhere else. I need to see more of that story. The characters are great. So Why the Last Man, high recommendation. I'm also rewatching Dave season 2 right now. I think Dave is one of the best shows on television right now. A lot of people are sleeping on it, including Botter,
Yes,
possibly even Cesar.
I love that you came on here to publicly shame me.
I
love it.
am.
I love
That's
it.
what I'm trying to do. Dave is great. I've told Botter to watch it multiple times. I believe Ashley has championed that show as well. It is really, really great. It's incredible for a show to be that funny, that weird, and somehow still touch on such emotional notes. I think that's the theme of all these champions, in a similar way to Bubble, where it's comedy in a lot of ways, but it finds a way to make you care emotionally. And that's a special gray area that a lot of things cannot hit. So Dave, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Season 3 will be coming eventually. And the most recent thing that I've watched is a show called Dope Sick on Hulu, which is about the the OxyContin epidemic. And I really, really liked that show. If you are a Michael Keaton or a Rosario Dawson fan, the acting in that show is just fucking top notch. And it's a mini series. It's 1 season, 8 episodes. Every episode's about an hour long. I really, really liked it. So I would like to champion all of that.
I laugh.
My wife loves that show.
Yeah. Cesar was just telling me. Well, no, his wife was literally telling me on that show, and it sounded fascinating.
If you want,
she's a nurse, so she's she watches it with like so much attention, and like I feel like she's gonna go back to her job, and like she works as someone who helps people from like very intense heart surgeries. Like she's the nurse that kind of takes care of individuals after that, and I feel like someone's going to be like, help me, please. I need my medicine. And she's like, nah, son, you know how bad that shit is for you? You're fucking pumping poison in your brain. They'll be like, Sarah, calm down. It's just Tylenol. No, I've been watching Dope Sick. Nah, son.
If you have ever been curious about how a drug like OxyContin that was so dangerous became so normalized, the show is very eye-opening and very good. And like I said, if you can name a show where you go wrong with Michael Keaton or Rosario Dawson it's a great cast, just great acting, floor to ceiling. So Dope Sick, I mean, it's frustrating and it's depressing, but it tells a very necessary story. It's something people should know about, because you never know when we're going to have to deal with something like that again. So definitely Dope Sick, check it out.
Well said. Very thoughtful champions. Good champions, man.
Thank you.
Well said. All right, I've got one to share today, and it is it's a throwback, but a masterpiece. Consider a masterpiece to many, and that is Lone Wolf and Cub. I started reading Lone Wolf and Cub a few weeks ago. I'm on the 2nd volume, and I'm pretty much addicted. If I'm not reading anything related to the show, I'm usually trying to catch up on Lone Wolf and Cub. For those unaware, it is a Japanese manga series created by a writer, and I'm probably going to butcher these, so I apologize in advance, but it's by writer Kazuo Koike, and then artist Goseki Kojima. It was first published in 1970. It tells the story of Ogami Ito, the shogun's executioner who was cast out and disgraced due to false accusations from another hating-ass clan, hoping to gain favor from the shogun. Ogami Ito is forced to take the path of the assassin, but he brings along his 3-year-old son, Diogoro, and together they're seeking revenge on that hating-ass clan.
How many times have you listened to Liquid Swords since reading?
Yo, not yet, but I'm this
since
close.
reading. Like you just or just to hear that those clips from Shogun Assassin, where it's like,
When I was young, my father was the greatest samurai in the land. He was the emperor's chief decapitator.
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I think, now that you mention it, I should have that playing in the back while I'm reading this. But the story spans 28 volumes of manga, so that's about like 8,700 pages in total. It's been adapted into, as Cesar was kind of hinting at, 6 films. It's even been a couple of plays. It's been a TV series. We've definitely talked about its influence on recent properties like The Mandalorian on the show, but its influence and importance goes well beyond just that. I've been reading the digital omnibus collected editions that Dark Horse put out in 2013. Most of them are available and free if you had a Comixology Unlimited subscription, which in my opinion makes it worth it just alone. So if you enjoyed The Mandalorian or comics like Frank Miller's Ronin or movies like Road to Perdition or Kill Bill, I think it is imperative that you check out this samurai epic and see where all of those kind of pulled from. The writer, interestingly enough, was inspired partly by what he felt was like a sense of deteriorating family values in Japan at the time. So he wanted this story to serve as an example of like the invincible bond between father and son. And he nails it, man. The art is amazing. I think Ed, to coin Ed's phrase, it's deceptively what do you say, like misleading how simple it looks. I'm sorry, deceptively simple. But it's you could tell like a master is behind that ink brush. So highly recommend
Choose the ball and you join your mother in death. Choose the sword and you will join me.
when you get to that part in the comic, it's so crazy, man. Because you've spent so much time just watching this father and son go on these journeys and run into these other, Ronin and assassins, and you don't get much story until the very end. And by then, you've kind of built this bond between them two. And then when you realize, like, oh, this is why they're on, this road that they're on, it just tugs at your heartstrings. So check that out. And that is my champion. And since this segment is brought to you by our good friends at Black Hive Tattoo, here's Nick Wagner, the head honcho of Black Hive himself, giving us one last recommendation for this week.
Hey guys, Nick Wagner from Black Hive Tattoo with this week's pick. It's probably going to be pretty unpopular, but I am going to champion the live-action Cowboy Bebop on Netflix. I recently rewatched the anime and immediately went into this one not realizing it was like so close on the heels. And I gotta say, it's super respectful of the original storyline. The updates I like. I think they're smart. The actors clearly love the original because they are leaning into the characters. And the first watch feels a little corny, but the second watch I really feel like it's kind of pitch perfect. So I don't know. Give it a chance. All right, have a good one, and happy belated Turkey Day, everybody.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Yes, like I said earlier, we are recording this on the day after Turkey Day, and this episode comes out a week out. So
or Tofurkey Day.
That's true. Thank you so much. I don't want to exclude anyone.
Cornbread.
Man, there was no fucking vegans in the fucking Mayflower.
Cornbread dressing day.
There was
they
no
were
vegans there.
called hyper poor people.
They were like, what are these bloody savages going to give us now? Yeah.
I'm gonna assume that Nick probably heard our Hawkeye episode and got to hear Ed and Ashley both kind of team up to champion the live action Cowboy Bebop show. I know, speaking of other hosts that champion it, Drew has been speaking pretty highly about it as well.
Yeah, that has not been what I have heard from literally anyone.
God damn, Warren. Why'd you have to say something?
Man.
God damn it. We're trying to keep it positive. I could have said that shit looked fucking horrible.
But also, I am not versed enough in Cowboy Bebop, but I have watched side by sides, and I got to say, as someone looking from a distance, I can't imagine calling it respectful of to me, it seems like bad dinner theater version of Cowboy Bebop.
Warren.
But I am not enough of a fan to speak on that, and I have not watched the whole episode, so I'm gonna leave. I'm about to say I'm gonna keep that opinion to myself, but clearly
you just already put your dick all over that shit.
It's fine.
Man.
It's fine.
Warren, we're not going to talk about how John Cho is way too old to fucking play Spike. We're not going to talk about how any of the characters really don't get their parts.
Hey man,
right,
why is she wearing less clothes, man? She's supposed to be like real hot and stuff, ain't she?
Look,
we've already addressed that last episode.
I listened. I know.
Hey,
you weren't dumb for saying that. I want to say
John Mesopotamia Cho is flawless as an old man playing a young man who moves too slow for his part. That's fine. It's okay. Let them enjoy their shitty Cowboy Bebop live action. And we'll just sit here and enjoy it as well.
So once again, that was a pick from Nick Wagner, our sponsor of this segment.
Sponsor for the show. Thankful.
Look, listen, let me say something here. Everyone knows
we keep it real here on the short box, even to our own detriment.
Not only that, it's okay to disagree. I think the current season of The Simpsons is one of the best in 10 years, and there's people that refuse to watch Simpsons beyond season 10. So it's okay to disagree, everybody.
Yeah,
if you don't like The Simpsons after 10, you can suck my whole dick. But I just want you to know.
Wow, Warren, way to make it about you.
Oh, that it's okay to have different opinions.
And I thought The Simpsons was a family show. You are not a good representative.
I don't actually mean that, everybody. If you disagree with me, that's okay. I love you.
All right. Well, look, that is our recommendations for this week. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. We got one more thing to do before we put a nice bow on this episode. And I know it's not Cesar's favorite part of the show, but I've enjoyed doing this the last few episodes. Let's close out with some parting knowledge and last words. Warren, how about you kick it off for me? Tell me something you learned today.
I learned today that it's okay to have different opinions and come on someone's podcast and tell their listeners to suck your whole dick. No, I don't actually mean any of that, anybody. And if I offended you, I'm so sorry. What did I learn today? I learned today that it is really fun to examine a comic book that pays homage to things that you don't actually get all the time. And I think that it speaks to the subject of today's episode, that you can appreciate a comic that sort of exists to spoof other comics. And even having not read or seen some of those comics, it still speaks to you and you still sort of get what it's doing. So I think today, if I've learned anything, it's that we should all be a little more open-minded. Isn't that great, everybody?
Well said. You can keep that bullshit to yourself. See, what about you, man? What'd you learn today?
I learned that Nick Wagner had got Alzheimer's, and I need to call him. And it's not fair that I don't visit him in the old home like I used to. It's not fair, and you can start to see the deterioration, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a joke. It is a real disease that affects so many people, and during the holidays, especially, we all must remember those who enjoy Cowboy Bebop. Anyway, no, man. All kidding aside, I will say I learned that I think I'm a Radioactive Man fan. Like, I had no idea. I was not going to delve into the comic. Simply because I've been steeped in so much stuff that has parodied and drawn homage to a lot of the old school stuff that basically has been sort of seminal and foundational if you're a comic book head. But this has something new to offer, and it's got a lot of cool little things that there's nuggets that have yet to be mined. And I found that refreshing, and I never would have known that if I hadn't picked up these 3 issues and read them. And it was cool talking with you boys about that stuff. So
awesome.
And I will throw in one more thing, just as another way to sell Radioactive Man to you. If you appreciate the way, like, one of my favorite artists, and I know C and Botter both agree with me, is MF Doom. And if you appreciate the way that MF Doom sort of exists in this weird space where everything is sort of a nod to comic book culture more than it is directly to just comics, I think Radioactive Man is a version of that in print, where it is a way of just showing how cool comic culture is as a medium, beyond just the stories and the art style. And so if you respect that sort of take and that sort of just feel that speaks to that, Radioactive Man does that in the same way that, say, Czarface or MF Doom may do. So I think you would find a lot that you love about what Radioactive Man is doing. I think you'd find a lot to appreciate ongoing after checking these issues out.
Appealing to my hip hop love. I love it, Warren. Thank you.
That's good.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I learned that it is not appropriate to come on someone else's podcast and tell their listeners to suck your whole dick.
Their entire dick.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I misquoted that.
Unacceptable.
Yeah. I really should probably vet the people I have on the show a little better.
Right. Things that are appropriate on the show.
Thank you.
Comparing our sponsor to someone who is delusional with dementia. Absolutely appropriate. But what Warren did, crossed the line. 100%.
And I definitely want to let any future sponsors know, because I'm sure that the slot for champion season will be opening up relatively soon.
Butter's going to be on the street with sunglasses on and a cup with pencils in it, begging for money like a cartoon character in like 2 seconds.
Yo, just sponsor my segment, man. I was like, yo, dude, come on. Jokes aside.
What is happening? These are the holidays, guys. What's happening right now?
It's because we're still, full of turkey, and it's got all them weird chemicals doing stuff to our brains. Anyways.
Yeah.
I will go ahead and truthfully say that all of those 700 texts that Warren flooded my phone with when he really got into his Simpsons comic craze, and he was like getting back into it, were all pretty spot on. The Simpsons comics is not some cheap gimmick or just another line of merchandise and money making. It's filled with a lot of passion and love into and I thought what Cesar said earlier was great. If you are an existing comic book fan, you will get so much out of this, man. Not only are you getting a great product on its own at the face value, but if you're familiar with like that golden age of comic books and that atomic age of superheroes, it pays off in so much different ways, and dividends galore is what I'll say. But I think we're at a good stopping point now, man. So there you have it, Shortbox Nation. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for hanging out with us this week. Tell us what you thought about this episode or what you think about Radioactive Man, or tell us about your favorite Simpsons comic or maybe comic book themed episode. I'm sure, Warren, there's a few really good Simpson comic book themed episodes you'd probably recommend. But give me one real quick.
The one where Homer becomes a superhero named Pie Man.
Perfect.
Is a very bizarre episode and really fun. There's also an episode where Homer is written by Seth Rogen, and he becomes a different sort of superhero he becomes a superhero that comic book guy created that then gets famous. And I don't know how much I recommend that one because it's very strange, but it is a spectacle. So if you're a Seth Rogen fan, look that one up and check that one out. But yeah, definitely the Pie Man episode. Really, really great. Check it out.
Well said. Check those out. Hit us up on our DMs on Instagram and Twitter, or send us a short email to read for the next episode. Like I said, if you got that compelling argument why you should win that Gotham City Limit Walking Dead variant, or if you truthfully beat Warren's score, which I highly doubt.
That's right. Yeah, slide into our slippery, wet, sloppy DMs. Slide right into them.
Well, that would be Cesar's DMs.
Suck our whole
slide right into those warm, salty,
all right, thank
discharging
you,
DMs.
Thank you. I'm going to meet the power of recording remote.
But I'm talking about DMs, dude.
Got it. DMs.
Come on.
Yeah. Speaking of next episode, there might not be one, and that's because that's because
Warren came on here and said this.
Well, that is definitely going to come back and bite us in some way. But that's because next week is our live show, and if you live in Jacksonville, the surrounding area, your ass better be there. Okay. Come out December 10th. That's a Friday from 7 to 8, and be a part of a live audience for a live recording of the podcast. I think Warren better be there because he's already cost me.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any excuses, especially if you're local. Like, oh, I'm adopted and it's the first time I'm meeting my biological parents. Oh, I can't come to the show.
Yeah, he's going to be there on Zoom. So
yeah, get over it. Oh, I got fucking cancer. No,
all right,
I don't want to hear that shit.
No, this is going very dark places.
No, I don't want to hear it. You better come to the show. We will do everything we can to make it worth your while. If you don't show up, then we'll kill you. So just don't worry about it.
Tickets are free if that's what we're mentioning anything.
And it's the last episode of Shortbox ever.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, tickets are free, and most importantly, we will be premiering a new project that we've been working on, and it'll be a damn good time, man. If you've ever been to,
I'm having trouble feeding my family. I can't come to the show. Oh, I lost my job over the holidays, and I got nibble marks on my 38 special. Oh. Yeah, just come to the show, guys. It'll cure everything.
This is legit the last episode.
Yeah, for sure. That's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in and being loyal fans all these years. But not for real. The live show will be a good time. Check out the show notes for a link to free tickets. And I'll try to have audio from that show up next week for all you out-of-towners. So stay tuned to the feed. But if that's too long for you to wait, become a Patreon subscriber, like our newest member, Kara, and get access to more episodes and bonus content, like our spin-off podcast series, Pilot's License. If you love classic comic book cartoons and animated shows as much as we do, this series is for you. All right, go to patreon.com/theshortbox to sign up, or just click the link in our show notes to make it easy on yourself. In the meantime, stay up to date with what we got going on by following us on social media, and most importantly, take care of yourselves. Have a great day, and please continue to make mine and yours Shortbox. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. That was fucking good.
And also, if Butter made you a bastard, he's late on his child support payments. Oh, I can't make it to the show. My dad's a deadbeat. Oh, just shut up and come, all right?
If you're getting your whole dick sucked, shut up and come.
Actually, you're in the right place.
Don't come to the show, literally.
Come in the face, but not to the show.
All right, this was a lot of fun.
Damn, I know you stopped recording.
No, I haven't stopped. That was actually, I might try to work.
Oh, I can't. No, I got nothing else.
I'll try to work those in. But yeah, this was a fucking fun ass time. Yeah, it's hot as shit in this fucking room. So
it's a little. Well, I mean, it's because we've been laughing.
Yeah, it's kind of toasty. All right, dude. Well, you enjoy the rest of your night, and thanks for hopping on.
Yo, send him that file because I bought her and we'll forget to ask you for it.
No, I'm looking right at it. I'll see if it actually recorded. It looks like I'm peeking a lot. We'll see what happens.
It'll be fine.
Okay, yeah, send it through.
All right.
I'd love to have your local.
All right. I'll see you guys.
All right, brother. Take care. Bye.
Peace.